Well, hey there! Somehow we have made it through the winter months and spring is here. And with that change, I've decided to step back and take stock of Shonen Jump's series so far in 2026. It is time for spring cleaning, and it's time I've updated my read list to reflect how well they've done in my reviews. Plus, it's just good to look back on the past 3 months of reviews and remember where we've been. I really enjoy doing them, and so now I feel it's a good time to go back and look at things as a whole. I've included timestamps in the description below and a pinned comment so you can jump to whichever series that you're interested in. And I also plan to release separate videos for each of the series, just as standalone videos, so you can watch those as well. There will be a level of spoilers from this point on, so spoiler warning for all Shonen Jump series. One Piece started 2026 with some surprisingly low ratings in my reviews, especially for my favorite series in the magazine. 2026 brought us back to the present after all of the God Valley flashbacks, and these chapters honestly have not been bad. Instead, I believe that the low ratings for One Piece are a testament to the quality of the rest of the magazine overall, and just how good Shonen Jump has been this year. Oda is clearly enjoying everything that he is able to share with the recent Elbath arc. We've been eating so good from a lore perspective. It is easy to feel like I've missed something. I'm sure I have. There's just been so much been coming out that it's very easy to just, something went past my notice. This arc lends itself to being reread over and over again just to savor all of the bits of the story that we're finally getting to learn. One Piece still remains the top dog, king of the pile, and it retains the highest average ranking in the magazine. I didn't see that changing at the end of 2025, and I don't see that changing now. Those of you that have been following my reviews, that small group of you who are rock stars, will know that I am a huge fanboy for Akane-Banashi. I think that this series deserves all of the love and respect of any manga enjoyer and deserves its place up at the big boy table of the magazine. The characters and art design of the series are impeccable, and it truly embodies the great shonen hype train, more than even some fighting mangas are able to achieve. It is able to set up these titanic clashes on the stage and give characters the chance to breathe and grow as much of their skills as any shonen protagonist out there. And it can do it without a single punch being thrown. Well, except when it's part of a dance, of course. But even I am surprised myself that it, for most of the year, did not crack the top 3 to start this year. See, I don't want any of you claiming that I pick favorites. No, it is probably due to the fact that we have been getting a lot of training and setup for the ultimate payoff that is to come. In fact, even now, we are beginning to see some of that payoff by just getting to see Akane and Kaisai's renditions of the God of Death story. I really, really enjoy this series, and I know that you would too if you gave it a chance. It snuck in a #1 ranking just before I made this video, and I have no doubt that it is going to go on a run of top rankings in the weeks to come. My boy Ichi and best witch of all Descartes have been cooking to start the year. The series has cemented itself as a top player of the magazine with another home run of an arc that led us to new characters that are easy to fall in love with. I'm speaking, of course, of Minerva and Chrono Weaver, as well as backstory for Descartes, which brings my love for that character to even higher levels than I thought possible. It introduced crazy implications for the story. I'm talking, of course, about the half-human, half-magic child, Madoka, who will soon be born, as well as the fact that Descartes acquired 2 additional magics, one of whom has a very, very negative view of humanity. I'm curious if her ability to maintain control over him will be addressed, or if it needs to be addressed at all. Ichi is clearly able to contain Ororo, but I am unsure if that is just due to his main character energy or if something else is involved. Either way, if you haven't been reading this series to this point, one, I am sorry for giving you some spoilers there, major spoilers, but two, drop whatever you're doing, call in sick to work and read this series. It is just that good. Sakamoto Days, you have gone on quite a journey in 2026. To start this year, there was a stretch where I started to get quite concerned about the quality of the chapters that were being delivered, and that concern has absolutely nothing to do with the writing or just even the general arc of the story that it's currently on. Actually, I quite enjoyed that part of it. No, the problem was that it was clear to me that to start this year, and honestly a bit of the end of last year too, that there was a noticeable strain on the art, on the mangaka's art and ability to produce the art from week to week. By that I mean that the drawing of the faces and the actual characters. If Bakuman was at all correct and told me anything about manga production, especially for Weekly Shonen Jump, I assume that most of the time backgrounds and the other parts of the series are handled by the assistants. Those have stayed consistent throughout, but the way that the actual characters were being drawn has really fallen off, something I'd assume that the mangaka would be fully responsible for the past few chapters. It's really looking pretty rough. Hence, Sakamoto Days finds itself with a considerably lower average ranking to start off this year. Do I think it will continue to be as low as this? Not exactly. But if I'm being honest here, I think some of its peers below it have overtaken it, and we will get to those soon. I would not be surprised if Sakamoto Days remains out of the top 5 of the magazine going forward, but I'm always happy to be proven wrong. For all of the memes and all of the fake hype that this series had when it started out, I think there can be no denying at this point that Kagurabachi has cemented itself as one of the tentpole series in the magazine. The start of this year has been absolutely stellar, bringing a close to the arc that we had been on, the attack on the various sword bearers and the Kaminabi headquarters, which all culminated in a massive showdown between Samura, Chihiro, and the Magatsume swordmaster that literally shook the foundations of the manga as we know it. The art and action were brought to heights that I honestly did not believe were possible, especially with the context of the issues of unfinished chapters that we saw towards the end of last year. Any issues or reservations with the series that I have at this point have been blown away. Now the series seems to be taking a major shift into this next arc by going back to the past to show the story of Chihiro's dad and the creation of the swords. So far, I think that it has gone pretty well. The new characters, young Rokuhiro, Chihiro's dad especially, have been fun new additions to the series and are people I want to learn more about. An easy early read for any Shonen Jump enjoyer. One small note is that glaring last ranking that it got last week. That 11 should not come across as an indictment of that chapter's quality. In fact, it wasn't a bad chapter at all. Instead, that ranking is more a reflection of the other series around it, elevating themselves to a higher level. I have no doubt that Kagurabachi will continue its streak of excellence as we go into spring. I think we all just need to sit back and marvel for a moment at how good Witch Watch has been these past few months. I have always recognized the art and the writing of the series. I think even at its most gag-oriented, this series has really clean design and has consistently proven to be one of the best drawn series in the magazine. Add on to that the writing. I have so much respect for how funny this series tends to be from week to week. Does it always hit with me? Of course not. Humor is subjective and some things just won't be as funny to some people as others. But the fact that it is so often very funny is a real feather in its cap. Now, take all of what I had just said there, put it into a box, and let's put that to a side for a second. Holy crap, has this series been really good recently. 2026 has seen this series fully turn in a new direction, and that direction is finally filling out the plot that has been hinted at for a while. We have fully begun an infiltration mission that has tension, excitement, and drama without losing that eye for humor or silliness. This series is doing something that I would not have thought possible for most of 2025. I wasn't doing my reviews at the time, but looking back on it, there would probably have been many weeks where this series would fall into the 10 to 13 range of the overall rankings. Now, with where the story currently is, that is basically unthinkable to me. This series deserves its spot right outside the top 5 of the magazine. Without a doubt, it is worth the investment of reading the whole thing to get to this point. Only Blue Box can both deliver everything I could ever have wanted and also everything I could never want, all in the same few months span. For a moment, it seemed we were back in dangerous waters with Hina, but then all of that was swept to the side mercifully, and we were blessed with a run of 3 of the best chapters of a rom-com that I think I have ever read. The double date, man, the double date. Just watching those 4 having the best time with each other and acknowledging the fact that Kyo deserves all of the happiness in the world and then him getting it was just a true home run after home run of a series of chapters. I do have to acknowledge the clear indications that we are barreling towards the end of the series. Taiki will soon be leaving high school, which is always the indicator of a series that is about to end, but I do think narratively we have reached a natural conclusion point to the story. I am very happy to continue enjoying this series as we slowly bring the ship into harbor, however long that takes, and hopefully however many good avenues it takes us down. I am happy to continue reading through and keeping this series in its deserved spot as the 5th best series of the magazine. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to one of my biggest surprises in the current Shonen Jump lineup. Shinobi Undercover is honestly a delight, and it has earned its very high average rating by consistently pulling out top 10 and frequent top 5 chapters. I think that this series likely has the smallest variance of all of my series, besides maybe some of the series that are bringing up the rear. This series combines a lot of things that I look for in a manga series, namely, really detailed art that leads to both expressive characters and dynamic fights and storytelling. Well-written and developed characters that both feel real and just a delight to get to know. A zany goofiness that brings genuinely funny humor to the table at regular intervals, and a compelling enough story and power system to keep the story moving. It is just a high quality series, and that was not what I would have expected from another ninja thing. But it really deserves that. Something about Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi has been putting me off of this series recently, and I'm not entirely sure what it is. Perhaps it is the fact that Kiyoshi himself has been taking a backseat recently, and he tends to be the character that I like the most of this series. Or perhaps I'm simply getting tired with the main gimmick of the fights in this series. Ultimate Exorcist has always had a very squishy power system. I mean, to this day, I still don't really have a full understanding of what our main character's full powers are. They have been doing a better job at bringing back recurring abilities recently and differentiating them a little bit, and it has a very clear aesthetic, which I do think works for it. But, I don't know, something about it has just kept its ranking in the upper teens in recent weeks. Does it deserve to end? Of course not. But it is just a shame that it isn't finding a way to elevate itself to higher in my overall rankings. It's fine, average shonen fare. Am I happy it's there? Moderately. Would I be sad to see it go? Moderately. That pretty much sums it up. Someone Hurts is a really simple story. But it is a simple story that is well told. You are not going to have to worry about taking out any enemies, and goodness knows you won't be having a lot of drama. But that is exactly how I like it. This is a story about two goofballs that enjoy a radio show and performing an ad hoc manzai comedy routine while occasionally, and yes, I mean occasionally, having some doki doki moments with each other. This story is incredibly cute, very fun, and brings a comedic appeal that I am surprised is as entertaining as it is. That 14 ranking that it has, I chalk up entirely to being an anomaly. This series is consistently smack at number 10 or close to it every single week. And that is where I will expect it to remain for a long time to come. Come join us with Someone Hertz, if you are not reading it already, to enjoy a community of readers who embody the mindset of our characters and join in on the fun of responding to the weekly radio prompts. Hima-Ten resides in a very interesting place for me in that I think it is subverting a lot of the rom-com tropes and typical situations that you see in very interesting ways, while at the same time occasionally throwing up the most fluffy bits of nothing chapters that I have ever seen. I think that the way that Kana was handled recently was really refreshing, and it showed off the main character's maturity. But everything around that supposed ski trip that never was, it was just a whole load of nothing at the end of the day. Because of this, I cannot slingshot this series up to blue box levels, definitely not. But it can easily be thought of as bumped up from what the average would say it is, or at least the ranking average that I have it as here. I think that realistically it will always slot low down on my rankings for these lists, but I think that there will be a clear distinction between Hima-Ten and some other series at the lower end of the pile. I enjoy this series, and more importantly, I enjoy talking about it. It gets a lot of reactions out of me, which honestly is more than I can say for things like Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi. Like, it's just fun to talk about in these reviews at times. I think that we can all agree that this series is on borrowed time, right? We all know that the end is very close, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the Mage Next Door until it ends. I'll give my full review of the series when it ultimately ends. The first of the newbie series for 2026 is Underdoctor, and I find this series to be very promising. The art is very clean. And I really enjoy the character design so far. At the moment, there is not an overarching story, instead having the series focus on episodic stories that are building up the characters that we're meeting along the way. Honestly, I'm fine with that approach. I was genuinely shocked last week when I saw a bit of a divide in the comments to this series of people wanting to have an arc begin. Either way, I don't think that we need to rock the boat too much with this series. I think it has started very well, and I'm enjoying this very sober take on the medical profession. Let's see where the series goes from here. Our next newbie series is Kinato's Magic. Like Underdoctor, I believe that this series shows some promise. That being said, I think it is doing way too much introducing of characters and not building up who they are. So far, I would hazard to guess that on average during these first 9 chapters, the series has introduced at least 2 major characters and has taken no time to spend with them understanding who they actually are. If anything, I would have been happy to spend a little time with just Jean and the main girl. I don't even remember her name at this point, but instead, it has been a parade of names and faces that I definitely don't remember. And frankly, it's like the author doesn't care if you know them either. My recommendation for this series is just to slow down. Give us some extended time with some of the characters you introduced. Maybe set up a bit of a longer mission where we get to spend some time with people. We're just throwing things at the wall at this point and seeing what sticks. You've got something here already. Just take your time. This series needs to be as crazy and as stupid as possible. I wasn't sure what to make of it at first, but if this turns into a big old WrestleMania fun time, then I will be fully on board with it. The worst thing that this series can do is be boring, or just be a typical Shonen Jump thing. I need stupid wrestling moves. I need crazy names for attacks. This series needs to go balls to the wall, and if it does, I will be very entertained. If it does not, then this series does not have a long stay in this magazine. Oh hey, remember me? That's right, Oter of the Flame indeed had chapters in 2026, and thus we will have a look back in this video. Man, what to say, I was worried at the end of 2026 that this series did not have long to live, but little did I know that it only had 2 more chapters before the end. Anyway, obviously I was sad to see it go, but definitely watch my final thoughts video to hear more about my opinions on this axing. Look, I only read 1 chapter for this year. It wasn't that great. This series wasn't that great. Isn't that great? It's still going somehow. It really doesn't deserve any more words or attention, so check out my final thoughts to hear more on this series, but I mean, you get it, right? Now this shocked me. I've given a lot, and I mean a lot, of thoughts on JJK over the past few months, and I will let my other videos do the talking here, but this was not on my bingo card as one of the series to end at the start of 2025. Check out my other videos on this for more, but long story short, I think that the ending landed the plane, the ending of Modulo ended the plane even more than the original JJK. But I am also on the fence as to whether the thing as a whole needed to exist at all. Whether you could have just done this in, a couple extra chapters of the original JJK, probably would have done the trick. But anyway, check out my other videos for my thoughts on that series. And that is the end of the look back. And now here is the new order in which I will read the series going forward. I'm really excited for some of these series, and I'm very happy to have them jump up the list. I am not including Ruri Dragon because honestly, it just is not published enough in the magazine to consider it a weekly Shonen Jump release. Just know that I am continuing to read it as it comes out, but I think we'll put the reviews to the side for now. Thank you all for watching. I can't wait to keep seeing you in my weekly reviews, and I will catch you again at the end of June.